Hi everyone, I'm a little bit late, but I'm covering for the whole year The Art of Holding Space, a journey of exploration and growth. I'm reading this book, amazing book from Scotland, The Art of Holding Space, and these sessions are about the chapters and my growth. The bowl is an essential part of it, as if you followed my videos, you will know that. Let me just stop the screen so you can see me. Okay, so welcome back. I was just saying that many of you will know that I'm reading this book, taking it through on my personal journey and growth, and sharing my thoughts and kind of summarizing the chapter. So today the chapter 5 was all about refining your container. And if you remember from the other ones, the container on the front is about, she kind of dramatizes it like this. What I offer is in the center, what guides me and what supports me on the outside. And obviously becoming the bowl is how you serve your clients and anybody else that you're holding space to. Sorry, like the midst of winter, but it's not here in Wales. So we covered quite a bit in the preamble chapters, which is quite amazing, really. But she really summarizes two things, I would say, in chapter 5, which are really important in relation to that being that bowl and refining it. The first thing that she related, and I could really get the feel of it actually, quite amazing, is that she's talking about the person that you're holding space for being rather like a chrysalis with kind of jagged edges and some bits of it sharp, which is part of the stuff they're bringing to you and part of their life experience. And so the container needs to be careful in that respect of not damaging those sharp parts and making it comfortable for people. And I really saw that as quite an amazing analogy. That, checking with them. And she talks simply as providing cushions. And I thought this in a very practical, physical sense, actually, that, you would make sure they're comfy in their chair with cushions and blankets, and whether they're warm enough, whether they're cool enough, whether they're, what their needs are. But she was talking about it, I guess, more in a sense of kind of checking that you've got those things in place that make it a safe container when they've got those kind of sharp edges. And she talked about the depths of the kind of chrysalis of people. So she said people going through liminal change and likely to need holding space or be in some kind of like chrysalis, and you can think of it like that in early stages of chrysalis. Being a chrysalis, the bowl would need to be a secure container and have the protection that you would expect, and that's what she's talking about. Whereas when they're ready to emerge and you're perhaps working with them and holding space for them over various sessions, then they need to be held more lightly, and therefore to have the freedom to grow and evolve at the same time, giving them the space for that. So really, these bits were really about, that their needs will vary, and it's recognizing that and it's checking that out. She talked a lot about who is at the center of the holding space. And this bit is again, this has been such an amazing journey, because this is about me thinking about different aspects of holding space for people. And what she was saying is thinking about who's at the center of the holding space relationship, because, in relation to who it is, and about your relationship with them. And she was saying in this chapter about intimate relationships, it's always harder, much harder to hold space, even if you're amazing at it and it's what you do. It would be really hard to do that with intimate relationships, because of the impact of the stories, emotions, your own transformation, your own pain. And I was listening to that, and I was thinking back to when my mum died, and it was particularly a tense time. No, actually, it was when my brother died, which was only 3 months before, actually. So my mum was suffering from depression, from dementia anyway, in a light way, I should say. But when my brother died, and he was living up north, there was a lot of discussion with myself and my siblings about whether my mum would go up and see him before he died. And there was a lot of discussion after he died about whether my mum would go to the funeral or not. And it became quite a tense conversation. And I look back on this and think it was really hard in my own grief to have those discussions and allow my sister and my brother to have their say and to listen to them in that non-judgment kind of compassionate way when you're right in the middle of the grief yourself, with the overwhelm and the exhaustion. And I probably made mistakes about things that happened over that time. And I look back on that now, and I'm not self-critical in a sense, because I understand it more. I understand that my overwhelm and exhaustion over that time meant that we all didn't hold space for each other as maybe we should do. And yeah, and it's something to consider. It's something to think about, isn't it? And I guess for me, it is thinking quite a bit about where you are as a coach, or whatever context is that you're holding space, that there's that overwhelm and exhaustion, and where you are in your energy. Because one of the things about holding space is what she calls the emotional labor. And I think this is so important. The emotional labor that we do. And in the book, she has a quote. And actually, emotional labor, she says, is a term coined by Arlie Russell Hochschild in a 1983 book called The Managed Heart, which is an interesting resource, I guess. She defines it as: emotional labor is the process of managing feelings and expressions to fulfill the emotional requirements of a job. More specifically, workers are expected to regulate their emotions during interactions with customers, co-workers, and supervisors. This includes analysis and decision-making in terms of the expression of emotion, whether actually felt or not, as well as its opposite, the suppression of emotions that are felt by being, for not having expressed. So some of us do a great deal of emotional labor in our places of work. And what she's saying about this in the context of refining that bowl is understanding your own energy. And this was a really big part of the chapter, that understanding your energy and the emotional labor that it takes to hold space, and that you must have strong boundaries. You must understand the limitations of what you do. And one of the suggestions, which I really like the thought of, I don't know how practical it is in a lot of senses for us that are doing one-to-one work, is exactly that it isn't one-to-one work, and that we come somehow we share that that kind of holding space with people, so that we also lessen the emotional labor on ourselves. So when we do peer groups or women's circles or things like that, and we're holding space, we have another person that also holds space at the same time, and whose role it is to do that, so that the labour, the emotional labour diminishes. I'm just going to read finally to end this little bit, a bit from the diary, because I've got her diary so that I can write all the notes. Well, it's a journal. And she's put on this particular page, which is really useful in this part of the chapter. At some point in our lives, each of us is given the opportunity to be the bowl for someone else. It might be a death, or it might be a birth, it might be a career change, or it might be a divorce. It might be a car accident, or it might be a coming out. It might be a faith-shaking moment when someone no longer knows what they believe in, or it might be someone's emerging realization that they don't identify with the agenda they were assigned at birth. It could be a number of moments in life when an old identity is taken away or no longer serves a purpose. Holding space is a gift we give and receive again and again throughout our lives. Sometimes we do it well and sometimes we fail. Sometimes it requires much of us and sometimes it requires just a phone call. So I thought that was really important for today's session. So I'll see you in a fortnight's time, and it's a real turn actually for chapter 6 because it's called Hijacking Space, which I think is going to be really interesting. Take care, and if you want to follow me, do come on to Julie Budge Coaching on Instagram or Facebook, where you'll see all the other things I do. And I do schedule as you need coaching, which is £75 an hour. You can book me for just one session, 3 sessions, whenever you like. I don't believe in fixed programs. I think that in the world we live at the moment, you might decide. A client rang me the other day and just wants 3 sessions, once a fortnight, end of. Okay, so, that opportunity is there. I've also got some other courses I'm running, but I'm really hoping that you're enjoying my exploration of holding space and it's useful to you. Take care.